Hello students, in this video we are going to study about a motivational poem by Roald Dahl, Mike TV. Roald Dahl was a multi-talented man. He was a British novelist, he was a short story writer, he was a poet, and he was a screenwriter. Along with that, he has also been a wartime fighter pilot. He has sold more than 250 million copies worldwide. And not only this, he has served in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. The most important thing we have learned so far as children are concerned is never let them near your television set. So the poet says the most important thing we all have learned so far as children are concerned is one should never allow them, no one should never permit them to be near the television sets. So the poet is totally against children watching television. Or better still, just don't install that idiotic thing at all. So the poet says, in fact, I have a better idea. Just don't put that thing in your house at all. Put that idiotic thing in your house at all. The poet addresses the TV as idiotic thing. For the poet, a TV is an idiotic thing. Stanza 2. In almost every house we've watched them gaping at the screen. Poet says, in all the houses, in almost all the houses that he has ever been, he's always seen these young minds, these creative minds who could have done wonders. They're doing nothing. They're just gaping at the screen. They're just glaring at the screen. They're only watching television. They could have utilized their time in something useful, in something fruitful. But what are they doing? They are just watching television. They loll and slop and lounge about. The poet says, these young minds, they loll, they slop, and they lounge about. The poet says that these young minds, they are just lolling and slopping and lounging about. This position is called lolling. So they sit in this position, they slop. Slop means they move here and there. Lounge means they sit on their sofas and lounges, and they just watch television. They are doing nothing but just watching television and stare until their eyes pop out. And not only this, they even stare until their eyes pop out. Their eyes are paining. They're damaging their eyes, but for them it does not matter. Last week in someone's place, we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. Now, the poet is using a hyperbole here. Hyperbole means when someone exaggerates, when someone is making it funny by just exaggerating things. Exaggerate means someone is lying about a thing. So the poet says once he has been to a house and there were dozen eyeballs on the floor because the children are watching the television and damaging eyes, so their eyes pop out and they get new eyes. So it is called a hyperbole. Stanza 3. They sit and stare and stare and sit. So they do nothing, they just sit and stare and stare and sit. They're staring on their television screens and they're sitting, and they're staring on their television screens and they're sitting until they're hypnotized by it. It looks like they're hypnotized by watching television until they're absolutely drunk. It feels like they have consumed alcohol because they do not listen to anything else. Their senses are not working with all the shocking, ghastly junk. Ghastly junk has been used for the television. The poet says they could have done wonders, but what are they doing? They're just sitting and staring and staring and sitting and doing nothing. It looks like they're hypnotized or they are drunk. Oh yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out of the window sill. The poet says, yes, we are aware. If you would make them watch television, they won't disturb anyone, they won't do any sort of mischief, they won't climb out of the window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch. And they would not do any sort of mischief. They won't harm anyone. They won't kick anyone. In fact, they would let you cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. And not only this, you can also wash your dishes in the sink. If you would let them watch television, they won't disturb you. But did you ever stop to think? To wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved too? But do you wonder, do you stop, have you even thought about what are you doing with your kid? I agree. We agree that yes, by making them watch television, they are not doing any sort of mischief and you can do household work. But what are you doing with your young kids? They could have done wonders. But you are killing their childhood, you're killing their creativity. Stanza 5. It rots the senses in the head, it kills imagination dead. And the poet says, by making them watch television, all the senses gets rotten up. They get spoiled. All the good things, all the creative ideas, they just rot in the head because they don't know how to think upon it, how to be creative. It kills imagination dead. And the poet says their imagination is dying because what are they doing? They're just seeing a picture and they're reacting over it. They do not build the pictures in the head. It clogs and clutters up the mind, and making them watch television blocks their mind. It clogs and clutters. Clogs and clutters means blocks. It blocks their imagination. It makes a child so dull and blind. So by making them watch television, you're killing their creativity and they're becoming blind. By blind we mean do not by blind we do not mean exactly blind with eyesight, but blind with creativity. They do not have new ideas. Their imagination power is too dull because what are we doing with them? We are making them watch television. He can no longer understand a fantasy, a fairyland. Now, if you would make them watch this television, and what will happen? They won't be able to understand a fantasy world, an imaginary world, or a fairyland. So we are just killing their brain, we're just killing their imagination. Stanza 6. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. The poet says that his brain is no more sharp. It is soft. It is very dull. It has low IQ because the powers of thinking have frozen. They have rusted and they have frozen. The powers of thinking are not working. A brain becomes sharp when you use it. He cannot think, he only sees. He does not apply any energy on his brain. He's not applying his senses. He's not using his intelligence. He's only seeing things and understanding things. There is no room for creativity. All right, you'll cry. All right, you'll say. But if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. Poet says, yes, I agree. As parents, you must be worried that, okay, you're right, you're correct, that we should not make them watch television. But if not television, how are we going to entertain our darling kids? How are we going to entertain our loving children? Please explain. Stanza 7. We'll answer this by asking you what use this darling wants to do. How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Have you forgotten? Don't you know? Now the poet says that we are going to ask this question from you. Before this monster TV was invented, how did these darling kids used to entertain themselves? What did they do? How did they keep themselves happy? How did they keep themselves contented, satisfied before this monster was invented? Have you people forgotten? Don't you remember? We'll say it very loud and slow. They used to read and read. They would read and read and read and read and then proceed. And yes, the poet says we're going to be very loud but very slow. They used to read, they would read and read and read and read and then proceed. These young minds, these young kids used to read. They had the habit of reading. To read some more. Great Scott Gadzooks, one half their life was reading books. Now, Great Scott and Gadzooks are expressions. The poet says that these young minds, before this monster was invented, these young minds used to read books. They used to read and read and read and then proceed and to read some more. Their reading never finished, their reading never ended. One half of their lives was invested in reading books. It was not wasted, it was invested. Stanza 9. The nursery shelves had books galore. Books cluttered up the nursery floor. So the poet says that when they were young, when these old age kids were young, even their nursery shelves used to have a lot of books. Galore means in large quantity. So their nursery shelves had a lot of books. The books cluttered up the nursery floor. Books were there blocking the pathway of the nursery floor. And in the bedroom by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. And in the bedroom next to the bed, there were more books piled up. There were more books waiting to be read. Those at that time those children had purchased a lot of books. They had books in options as well. They used to have backup books. So there were no TV. There were no TVs, no mobile phones, nothing. No laptop, nothing. Their only source of entertainment was books. Yes, books. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales. And the poet says at that time those stories were so wonderful, they were so beautiful. The stories were of dragons and gypsies and queens and whales. This is a dragon, we all know, and this is a gypsy. Gypsy means a nomad. People who do not have a permanent place, they move from one place to another. And queens we all know, whales we all know. So those stories were of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales, of treasure islands and distant shores. Those stories were related to treasure islands and places where you had to travel via sea route, where smugglers rode with muffled oars, where smugglers used to come silently. They used to come on their ships silently. And pirates wearing purple pants, and we had pirates wearing purple pants in those stories, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot. When we also had stories related to cannibals. Cannibals are humans who eat other humans. So we had stories related to cannibals. They were crouching round the pot. They were circling round the pot and stirring away at something hot. So they were stirring someone or something hot. So we had stories related to cannibals and pirates and smugglers and treasure islands and gypsies and dragons. There were such wonderful stories. And what are we doing? We are just watching that stupid idiotic box. The younger ones had Beatrix Potter, and the poet says at that time those young kids had a wonderful writer named Beatrix Potter. With Mr. Todd, the dirty rotter. She has written a lot of stories, The Tale of Mr. Todd, and Squirrel Nutkin and Pigling Bland. The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin was a story written by Beatrix Potter, and The Tale of Pigling Bland was again a story written by Beatrix Potter, and Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, just how the camel got his hump, and how the monkey lost his rump, and Mr. Toad and Bless My Soul. Mr. Toad is a character of the novel. The Wind in the Willows. And there is another story, How the Camel Got His Hump. That is a story. How the Monkey Lost His Rump is not a story. The poet has only used it for the scheme of rhyme. Hmm? There is Mr. Rat and Mr. Mole. Again, Mr. Rat and Mr. Mole are characters of Wind in the Willows. Oh, books, what books they used to know. And those young kids had such lovely books. They were such beautiful books. Those children living long ago. In the present time, the children are not living. At that time, children were actually living their lives. They had imagination. They did not need those idiot boxes, that idiotic thing, that idiotic television. All they wanted, all they needed was books. So they were living long ago. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray. The poet says, we are pleading, we are begging, we are praying. Go throw your TV set away. Just throw your TV sets away. Just throw them. They're of no use. And in its place, you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Throw these television sets away, and in its place, you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall to keep all those wonderful books. So I hope the poem is clear to all of you. Thank you, everyone. In case of any doubt, kindly approach.